Fables and Foibles of Wild Abundance, a permaculture homestead and education center in the mountains of western North Carolina, with Natalie Bogwalker.
A lot of people think, wow, what an awesome idea. I'm going to create a school on my land, and if I create a school on my land, then we can have these workshops and get other people to build everything for me. Doesn't that sound like a great idea? So there are some really great things about living in a school, and there's some things that are really hard, and I want to speak to those a little bit first. So some pros are help on projects, classes and work traders to really help on projects. A sense of community, like I need people around. Does anyone here need people around to feel like you're a human being and everything's right with the world? Yeah, okay. So you can understand that. A sense of meaning. So for me, sharing the skills that I think are super important for life on Earth gives me a sense of meaning. And that's something that I think is really important for human beings, to have a sense of meaning. So that is great about having a school. Having a land-based income, I sometimes go to town once a week, which is pretty great. And I only live 20 minutes away, so it's pretty awesome. Although we joined the YMCA recently. Creating local jobs. So that's something that I didn't anticipate when starting the school. I was like, oh, I can just do all of this myself. But when you try to do that, then you don't get this thing called sleep. And then you start being mean and weird to people, and they don't usually like that. And so Wild Abundance hires a lot of people, a lot of teachers, and we have a site manager now who's actually here, Lewis. And we have an assistant director, and we have a marketing person, or several marketing people, and we have hired lots of teachers. And I think that's something that I realized is a really important thing to do these days, is create meaningful jobs in community. You guys see that? Really important. And it's also a motivation to keep your homestead looking really beautiful if you have all these strangers coming all the time that you're trying to impress with your knowledge and abilities. Cons. Oh, can anyone else think of any pros of starting a school where you live?
Running hours.
Sorry?
Short commute times.
Short commute times, yes indeed. Anything else? There was one?
Don't need to leave to spread your knowledge.
Yeah, you don't have to travel all over to be able to share what you have and get your sense of meaning. So yeah, there's lots of great things. Some cons are often when you have classes, work on projects, things don't go exactly how you might have envisioned. And so there's some time that's spent redoing some of the work. You can definitely suffer from social overwhelm. I have experienced this, and I see some of my former workshop participants here, and I think they're familiar with me hiding in my cabin when I'm not teaching. Overcommitment, like having classes going on, having work traders who are wanting to know what to do, having people call who are interested in seeing the place before they register for classes, having just friends drop by. Low profit work. So it's this strange thing how a lot of these things that we really believe in, they don't tend to make a lot of money. You guys notice this? Like farming is a pretty classic example. Yeah. And so, especially when you have people who are working for you that you have to pay on a regular basis, it can be kind of stressful. Needing to constantly manage what's going on, an attachment to appearances, because there's people coming through. Kind of the downside of motivation to keep the place looking beautiful. And feeling a lot of pressure and stress to get things ready for workshops. Anyone else think of any cons? Yes?
When you're constantly having new people come onto the land, you have to repeat yourself and go over everything all over again and educate every person.
Yes.
Just like repeat.
Yes, and sometimes that can get tiresome, for sure. Anything else?
Unexpected visitors, maybe?
Unexpected visitors, that's a really big one. And actually a lesson that I learned after I was on TV for a little while was I took the directions off the website. That was a really good thing. So now it's like a hidden page that you have to like send someone a specific link to. So that's been a good lesson learned. Any other? I intentionally left these kind of short so that we could have some audience participation. Any other? Yeah. Injury, yeah. You have to have lots of insurance. Insurance is a really great thing. Like, I know that it's kind of a sham sometimes, but especially just like farm insurance and homeowners insurance, like I pay about $1,000 a year for insurance on the land. There's more for the firefly gathering, which is separate, but that gives me such peace of mind. I highly recommend it. Any other cons? Yeah.
Introduction of disease.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting one. So we have a composting toilet. And so last year, one of the residents who was living at the land ended up getting Lyme disease and had to take antibiotics for 6 weeks. And at some point near the end of his round, I was like, you know, I don't know if we should use that compost. And also, we had been making biochar and using urine in the biochar, and it seemed like after he was taking those antibiotics, some of our plants were dying. So, whereas if you have a really more insular group, we've decided to stop using any manure on the land on any sort of crops we're concerned at all about. You know, and there's certain things that you have to be clear about. And as far as plant disease too, you know, that's a really big thing. But you can also get so much of that like buying any starts anytime. So it's a crazy world, but yeah. Okay, and so one thing that was the like participatory part. And we're gonna have more participatory parts at the end, but I'm gonna go through a lot of material right now. So at this point, I'm gonna ask everybody to hold your questions till the end. Does that work for everybody? Yes? You can find Okay, so why wild abundance and why permaculture? So people are becoming more and more disconnected with the physical world, losing their sense of belonging in natural environments, with each other, and in their own bodies. Industrial society and patriarchy are destroying the earth as we know it. Does that resonate with anybody? Pretty scary. So learning skills for earth-based self-sufficiency and interdependence re-empowers people with confidence and competence, bringing them together around authentic ways to live. Wild Abundance offers classes and consultations in organic gardening, natural building, permaculture, primitive skills, eco-homesteading, and more in a community setting on a real, functioning, breathtaking permaculture homestead. Our instructors and consultants bring deep knowledge, vast experience, and passion to make learning and reconnecting a joy. So, we're going to have a brief history of Wild Abundance and how it has come to be what it is. So, this is the Bogwalker, that's me. This is before Wild Abundance. So, something that I think is really important if anyone's thinking about starting a permaculture homestead is that you don't start with your own land. I think it's really important that you live and experience lots of different places and learn, from their failures and learn from their successes and learn from your own failures and your own successes while doing it on someone else's piece of land. This saved me thousands and thousands of dollars and years of my life. Like, we're gonna see, all this has happened at Wild Abundance in about 5 years. And had I not lived with the intention of living for the rest of my life at 3 other places before this and visited countless other places, I bet it would have taken 30 years to get done what we have gotten done. So, at first, when I wanted to, so I was done with all these things. I was done with the bark huts. I was done with living in Spain on a squad. I was done living in Boone with my ex. So I was like, okay, I want to start a new thing, and it's going to be a school, and we're going to do awesome things. And so I joined this group called the Appalachian Reefs community. Has anyone thought about buying land with lots of people before? Yes. Well, let me tell you, I was very excited about it. And we went on a great land search. And we were looking for community nearby, water, flat land and open land, access to a population center, access to intact forest, access to a woodlot, multiple building sites, with most of them being passive solar, quietude, and parking. So I'm have the rash assumption that many of you all are interested in starting your own land project, or have already and are curious to know what I screwed up on, so you can not screw up. Is that resonant? Okay, so one thing that we did together, this group, there were like 15 of us, way too big, by the way, and we searched for 2 years for the ideal piece of land. We couldn't find what we were looking for. We had lots of long meetings and big personalities, and we looked at hundreds of parcels. And I was actually on this committee looking for land, and one of the wealthier people who was in the group actually paid me to go look at land. And that was an awesome opportunity because I really learned a lot about what is out there and what isn't out there. Like flat land in the mountains. It's the thing. I mean, everyone wants flat land in mountains, isn't that right?
Yeah.
Unless you want to build all your gardens, these crazy terraces. Anyone want to do that? No. Oh yes, the youngest person in the class. Yeah. So we were looking for this land, and the universe undermined the big dream. We couldn't find it. But then something better happened. Have y'all had that happen in your life? Okay. So what happened is as I was in the middle of this great land search, and I think that the thing is usually when people are looking for land, who here has looked for land? Did you find it right away? No, what a pain in the butt, huh? And working with realtors, and they're like, oh, this is a great place, and they show you this picture of the pasture, and then you get there, and the pasture's like that. So, randomly, I was making elderberry syrup with one of my friends, and her friend, Kama, called her up and was like, oh my gosh, our neighbor behind us is selling his land. And I was leaving the next day to go visit my family in Washington State. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I called my partner at the time, who was looking with me, and I was like, you have to go tomorrow, please, tomorrow, go and find out about this place. And we got on the waiting list, and I asked Juliette Blancasford, who runs the Chestnut School of Herbal Medicine and was my dear friend and who was also in the ARC community search, if she wanted to get in on this piece of land, because she also wanted to run a school, and I thought that the two would go well together. So our 3 households, well, it later became 3 households because my partner and I broke up, but we did something very smart. And when we bought the land, we bought 15 acres, and we immediately, an hour after the sale, divided it into 3 separate parcels. That, I think, is very smart. And when we did that, we put deed restrictions on the land. These deed restrictions included no... This video was made by Wild Abundance, where we teach skills for self-sufficiency,
like homesteading, permaculture, woodcraft, wild foods, and tiny house and natural building, all in the beautiful mountains around Asheville, North Carolina. Check out wildabundance.net to learn more about our classes and consultations.